All right, guys. Sean back here again with the 1% Club podcast. Today I've got Diane from the Boss Bitch Radio. Can't wait to talk about, people glamorize stage shape, but they don't talk about the costs, the hormones, the gut health, the injuries, the mental load. And today we're going there. So, Diane, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and a little bit about your background, can't wait for you all to listen to this today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so much
Absolutely.
fun. I am an IFBB bodybuilding professional. I've been bodybuilding and competing since 2011, almost 20 shows under my belt.
Wow.
I've trained other women to stage and have been in the fitness industry for almost 20 years. I decided to stop competing about 3 years ago, just after really seeing how much damage things had done to not only my physique, but seeing the trends over time with different athletes and seeing how it impacted their mental health, their physical health,
Yes.
and overall just how detrimental a lot of the discipline that goes into bodybuilding ends up being over time coming out of a show psychologically, specifically for women. I can't speak to men. A lot of men come for me over on Instagram because they're like, this isn't true for me. And I'm like, well, my experience is with women. But yeah, I have a lot of love for the industry and also uh, the pros and cons. The cons outweigh the pros, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think those are great points. And can we start with what post-show reset actually is?
So, post show reset is really my formula for coming out of a show. It took me about 2 years to really figure out the steps that needed to be taken in order for someone to come out of a show and feel like themselves again. So, the first piece of that is appetite. So when you are in a calorie restricted environment for long durations, and some women do show after show after show, so you're essentially forcing yourself into starvation. The body coming out physiologically, it's like a caged animal coming out and then having access to all kinds of foods that you haven't been able to have. And
Yes.
so that in and of itself is very difficult for people to navigate because your hunger hormones aren't regulated, right? We have ghrelin and leptin, which are two sort of brakes and accelerators. And so out of a show, you can't really make sense of like, am I hungry or is it just my body trying to get back to like homeostasis, just like sort of its normal balanced state. So, coming out of a show, really, I like to work with women to balance that, to get some normalcy there, to start to regulate their appetite. And a lot of coaches really just like to say, oh, well, let's just slowly work your calories back up so we can mitigate too much fat gain. Because when you come out of a show, you're like a sponge. You're dry, like a dry, crusty sponge.
Yes.
And everything you eat, it seems as if you're watching your body get softer and the scales going up. And for a sport that really prides you on being lean and smaller, seeing that can be really, really difficult mentally for females. So, working with some tips and some strategies for regulating appetite, regulating blood sugar is sort of the first step of a post show reset. And then the second piece of it is, let's be real, like bodybuilding training, that is not a sustainable way
Yeah.
to live, right? 6 to 7 days inside of a gym. Sometimes you're doing 2 a days, you're doing fasted cardio, you're training for an hour to an hour and a half in a very depleted state. And when you come out of a show, you're like, what do I do with my hands? You're like, I
Yes.
don't know this do I just keep doing this thing because it seems normal in your brain. So it's really resetting the expectation of what consistency looks like for somebody who isn't going to compete again. And it just varies. Some clients want to compete again maybe in a year, and some have no desire. They're just like, I want to get back to my normal self. So reconfiguring a training schedule that makes sense based off of what the client really needs, depending on how old they are. Women in their 40s should not be training like women in their 30s and things of that nature. So it's really the nutrition component, it's the training component, and then the unfucking the brain
Yeah.
of post show expectations. Because what you'll hear a lot of people in the bodybuilding industry say is you're always comparing your physique from your last show date. And it's really difficult for you to feel, uh, you know, fit and athletic after you've been on stage at, like, for myself, 7% body fat. Everything that came after that just never felt good enough.
Yes.
So there is a mindset component that needs to go along with that. So, so there's a lot of that. And just socially, when you do a bodybuilding show, you really kind of have to become a hermit. Every single thing you do, from the moment you blink your eyes open to the moment your head hits the pillow, is calculated. It's like a science project. From the water you're drinking, the sodium, your meal timing, what time you go to the gym, how, your post and your pre-workout nutrition. I mean, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's like a newborn baby.
Yes. I'll have a newborn baby on Tuesday.
Oh boy. Well, you'll
That
get
is
to know
amazing.
very soon. Congratulations.
Thank you. And one of the things that, I don't think is talked about a lot in the post-show rebound or just before is yes, there's performance enhancements in bodybuilding, men's and women's, which is totally fine if monitored the right way. And the right way means that you can't just go and get these super basic labs that have a basic liver, kidney, hormone panel, because that's not actually taking a deep dive of what's happening through the entire year. It's just a snapshot, and you usually get that probably when you're on cycle in the middle of doing a show.
Right.
But it's almost like, what does the body look like right after? Because you're coming off of a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of changes are happening. The sleep, I think the psychological aspect is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're going to do those things, that's totally fine, but making sure that, so we offer cardiometabolic labs. So we're actually taking a look at the size of the cholesterol molecule, how many cholesterol molecules are they sticking together, right? But if you don't go to like an advanced place, then and most of the time it's education.
Yeah.
People just don't have that education out there, or they're getting their hormones checked, but they can do a urine analysis over 30 days, especially for a female, and actually test what their hormones are doing in that entire 30 days, especially after the show. And I feel like with that information, you could probably help re-engage and restart your body, rather than just going through a show rebound, because you're actually being able to see, and then you're under the guidance of your doctor. They know what you're doing, which is totally fine. Obviously, there's risk associated with it, but at least you have like actual real information. Than like, oh, I'm doing okay. I get 2 blood tests a year,
Not good enough.
which is not good enough. And then with that being said, we also offer like a full immunology panel for IgG, IgE, and IgA antibodies, which is a blood test to see if any foods are actually creating inflammation in your blood, which then upset your stomach as well. Then many of those times vegetables are on there, things that like spinach, blueberries, almonds, which is common in a bodybuilding diet, is on there. So knowing those things, you can actually, okay, if I'm eating those things, this is why I feel bloated all the time.
Yes.
And I feel like those things are very important. So if everyone got like a snapshot of their health, they could be like, okay, here's what I can do. This is why I'm not going to feel good. This is why I'm going to feel good. And then their coach, I feel like, can more guide them in a healthy demeanor, and they can have some guidance with their physician. But it doesn't seem like we got this whole thing tied together. Still feels kind of archaic, where I think people try to, I'm hiding that I'm doing bodybuilding. I mean, just go get the right tests. It's fine. Like, I don't care what you do, just do it in the healthiest way possible, right? Everyone's got vices and everyone likes to do things. Some things could compromise their health, but again, just do it in the best way possible. And I feel like that would help emphasize the post-show rebound. Like 10 years ago, I used to work at City Athletic Club, so that was like bodybuilding central back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And I did therapy, so I was working on all the bodybuilders. It was a great time in my career, but it seems like we haven't changed anything since then. There's so much information out there, especially women's hormones are much more sensitive than men. But yeah, just that's something that I've seen now that I own the health center. I'm like, I wish we could do things a little bit different.
Well, I'm glad that you're speaking on that, because again, a lot of this is still very archaic. There's a lot of coaches who shouldn't be coaching. because they did a show or two and they did well and they have extremely fantastic genetics. And so people are just like, oh, I'm going to hire this coach, or, she looks great or whatever. But speaking to what you said, physique enhancing drugs are a big part of the bodybuilding community. I think I'm speaking out a lot about that. I have for years. I've always been very transparent about my experience with physique enhancing drugs, how it has affected me. I mean, I always like to, if I have an option to have a platform to share, is a lot of the people that you see competing, even on the amateur front, are in fact enhanced. And I think social media has its perks, but I also think that it confuses a lot of people who glamorize the bodybuilding lifestyle and think that it's so healthy and that it's an admirable thing to chase. It's an admirable goal. And the reality of it is that a lot of what's going on behind the scenes are, illegal fat burners, physique enhancing drugs. And I've always been really a huge advocate for my athletes before we start any sort of prep to get a baseline level of labs so we know what's going on with their hormones, what's going on with their liver, their kidneys, because it's a huge stress on the body. Whether you use physique enhancing drugs or not, if you decide to do things naturally, you're still putting a lot of stress on the body, and there's going to be what I call check engine lights that pop up along the way. And so post-show, I love what you guys are doing, because that sort of information post-show helps a coach really plan the off season and a post-show reset strategy a lot more dialed in than just, oh, I'm going to buy some labs off Quest and go run some labs real quick, and that should give us the full detail, because it never really gives you enough data.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on something. Like, obviously, you said you stopped competing, and we talk about the psychological effect. Like, do you feel like you had to leave one identity to kind of find your new identity?
Yeah. And that's a huge piece of it too. So, competing since 2011, all the way, until 2021, or 2022, it was my identity. I was doing sometimes 3 shows, 4 shows a year. And, once you have the IFBB title behind your name, that just becomes a part of who you are. And so for me, when I stopped competing, it was very disorienting, because I no longer had this goal that I looked forward to every year to focus on, or, have a strategy with my coach and say, okay, well, this show, this is what we need to work on in the off season. And so for me, it was very, very difficult. I went through a little phase of depression and massive burnout. My hormones were also all over the place coming out of post show. But what I started to really shift towards and create the conversation towards, at least in my own brand and my own content, was really focusing on health and longevity, which is not sexy. It's not as sexy and as glamorous as like, oh, I'm going to be on this sparkly bikini. Like, okay, I'm going to be healthy. Wow, that's exciting. But the reality of it is now I really focus on other things, right? Like playing around with setting different goals and different things in the gym, and progressive overload with certain exercises, and maybe different training techniques, and doing things that bodybuilding really wouldn't let me do.
Yes.
So that's the thing, is I get to play around with different fitness modalities and have fun with it. I'm still a bodybuilder at heart. Like, my training at least 3 days a week is still very bro and still very bodybuilder targeted, but I can play around with different things now and not feel like it's going to affect my prep, or I don't have the energy to do it because I'm 4 weeks out or 6 weeks out or 8 weeks out. And it's just more for enjoyment, which is great.
And, talking to all bodybuilders out there, is I think that we become addicted to the look.
Yes.
Just look at all my tattoos. You
yeah.
become addicted to the look, and you can't, like, I'm going to look like this for a certain amount of time, then I'm not, but you don't want that. So
Yeah.
you'll sacrifice your health, and 99% of them probably do. I know a lot of professional bodybuilders. What are the signs that someone is stuck in prep mode even after prep is over?
Ooh, okay. So If you are still chasing that lean aesthetic, and again, this kind of ties back to what you were saying about identity, right? One post show sort of identity fallout that happens too is when we're in prep, we're excited to be posting our selfies and our shredded abs and doing the ab checks and doing all that and sharing how disciplined we are with our meals and all of our training progress and whatnot. But when you come out of a show, it's almost like there's nothing really to be like bragging about. And I find that a lot of women, when they stop competing, they'll just kind of disappear off social media. They'll go radio silent, and you won't see many photos that they're posting. You won't see, a whole lot of bragging about their fitness journey anymore, because it's really anticlimactic. There isn't this big like end date for the stage. So when it comes to thinking about, post show and how to escape that identity, it really has to take the tide has to turn. You really have to focus on getting back to your social life, your family life, doing all the things that you missed out on when you were in prep. I don't know if that answers your question a little bit, but I know a lot of that, we kind of go into self-preservation mode during prep, because every bit of energy has to be allocated for the goal. And then after that, you're like, oh, I have a lot of free time now.
Yes.
Get back to real life now.
So, and speaking on that is, what is it like having a personal relationship while you're a professional competitor, bodybuilder? And what do you think about a couple being a professional competitor, bodybuilder together? What is the psychology there?
So I can speak for myself in terms of the relationship. I found I've dated bodybuilders before. I was in a long-term relationship with another IFBB pro. And I will say it can have its pros and its cons, right? If you are both in prep, it's a little difficult because you're both operating with very few brain cells. But then you kind of commiserate together. You probably have to do cardio together, train together, food prep together, and all that. I know that there were periods when one of us wasn't on prep and the other one was. I think it worked because I understood, right? I understood we couldn't go out to restaurants. We can't, be going out to all these social things. But I find the most difficult pairing, at least from coaching women, is when their significant others have zero interest in it. They don't support it. Sometimes there's a little bit of, I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but they see their partners getting shredded. They're getting all this attention. It's a source of contention. It can break up relationships. And then I've had a lot of clients where it's brought their marriages or relationships closer because their partners then became healthier as a byproduct. They aren't going as extreme as their partner is for the whole bodybuilding aspect, but they're losing 10, 15, 20 pounds and getting healthier and also being supportive. So I really think it just comes down to the partners themselves and really where they're at in their own health and fitness journey.
Yeah. And, I think I love bodybuilding and competition because it is the true level of discipline that I've seen out of almost every sport, because it is a true 24/7. For instance, like if you're an NFL player, you come in, you get treatment, you work out, you sit in the sauna, then you go and eat, but it's not like you're measuring and counting everything and, I got to sleep for this, I got to drink this amount of water, like to a certain extent. But this truly is like, I can't watch TV for another 2 hours. I have to sleep for 8. I mean, it is, you basically have to fully build your life around it. Let's just be honest about that, because it's like your whole life is built around that, which is totally fine. But it is fascinating the level of discipline that is behind that. And, maybe you don't take it to that extreme, but being in great shape. And I think that we have a weird connotation between being in great shape means how you look. Being in great shape is how you look and feel. Okay, we got to take both in consideration. But I have a lot of respect for people that look and feel like they're in great shape, because it does take a tremendous amount of effort, and it is truly something that money cannot buy. It's why, like, it's funny because people would walk in and be like, I didn't know you had a big gym. I'm like, man, this thing's like 15,000 square feet.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, we just thought you had a wellness center. I was like, the gym's the most important part. And I like the gym. So in my new space, I'm going to buy 100 more machines because I love the gym. But we can do all those things and you can still utilize the gym. And the gym is amazing for, one, producing effort, but two, the psychological effect of even if you went to the gym twice a week and you did that for 10 years is truly amazing. And it is an amazing outlet. And, the world is changing. We're stuck on, on AI and social media. But I think the worst thing is we're comparing ourselves to things on the computer more than ever. And most of those things are not even true. The world of influencer marketing is crazy, especially in health stuff. I mean, you got every 6 days, there's a new product that someone is pushing. And before it never used to really bother me, but now I'm like, I'm proud that I actually have a physical place that we actually conduct data research and make people better in a physical space that is truly different per person.
Yeah.
Like you don't see me making my own supplements and I'm have it all over the place because I don't know which the person needs, and the person's only going to get what they actually need. We're non-biased. Like people need, if they need to spend a lot of money, they will. If they don't need to spend that much money, then they don't spend that much money. But we're going to give someone what their ultimate health roadmap should be. And that leads me into diving into the deep dive of women's hormones and root causes. By the way, I think that they're releasing Shield, which is a women's health documentary on Amazon. I'm actually in there as one of the professionals. I know it might seem kind of odd. Who the hell is this guy with the head tattoo
It's all
in
good.
there? But I think that's releasing soon. So I'd love for you to check that out.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
What symptoms are most common post-show? Cycle changes, sleep, anxiety, cravings, libido, hair, water retention.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the things that oftentimes a lot of women don't realize the severity of is when they lose their menstrual cycle during a cut phase. As a coach for me, when I have a client lose their period, that is the goal post show. We are trying to get that back on track. That leads to like bone loss and so many other, future potential problems. Issues with fertility end up happening too sometimes if that isn't monitored. So you want to get your period back as soon as possible. And I would not prep an athlete until they had their period back for at least 3 consecutive normal periods. The first period's always a little weird coming back. So that could take, some athletes 5-6 months. And, with body fat dipping that low, typically you will see the period go in females. So yes, I know for myself personally from my last show before I did my first pro show is I had a significant amount of hair loss. I would take a shower and just by putting my hand on my head, just gobs, and I would be in tears for weeks. I had to cut my hair really short. It was thinning. A lot of times if you're using physique enhancing drugs, you will see lots of hair loss, hairline reduction. This is why I have bangs. I'm going to be so for real, is because my hairline over the course of years has gotten thinner and thinner. You will see widening of the jaw. That's usually a huge one when women start with physique enhancing drugs. Again, myself, I've experienced this. I had to go get Botox in my masseters to bring the size of my jaw down. Vocal cord thickening is another one. If you go listen to my YouTube videos from 15 years ago compared to now, there is a stark difference in the tone of my voice. So, and these are permanent changes that are not, you can't, I think there are some surgeries, but very risky ones. So yeah, hormones are a huge one. Thyroid is another one that probably isn't talked about as often. That is also one that usually takes a really big hit. Again, blood work is another way to kind of keep an eye on that. My thyroid hit the tank drastically, probably, 14 shows in, 12 shows in. And so I had to use thyroid support at some point. I've managed to somehow get it back through just holistic ways, quite frankly, and not be on thyroid medication anymore, which is great. And liver is the other one. So the liver oftentimes takes a hit just by the nature of the extraneous amounts of exercise and stress on the body. But when you add anabolic compounds in there, that is another one that is oftentimes one that you have to keep an eye on. So sleep, libido, everything in some capacity gets hit by the nature of bodybuilding.
Yeah, and I think so we go back to those labs, right? So most labs just test your TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. So we test your TSH, your free T3, free T4, and the reverse. So like it just actually had a patient, they were optimal for all three, but it triggered the reversal, and that was out of range.
Yep.
Their follicle stimulating hormone was out of range. The luteinizing hormone was out of range. And all those correlate together. But if you don't pay for these other panels, you end up missing things, just like cholesterol. So you could have high cholesterol. You can also be on cholesterol meds. Now you can have low cholesterol. But if you don't check the particle size and how many you have, you don't really know, are you a predisposition for your the coagulation of the cholesterol? So it's sticking together in the artery. Now you have high HSCRP. Now you produce inflammation. So obviously when you exercise all the time, those numbers can be severely enhanced. So yes, can performance-enhancing drugs affect it? Yes, but also the amount of exercise and strain. That's why I'm so religious on full tests on the liver and full tests on the kidney, including the urinalysis, so we can actually see everything, because that's where your body is processing out the toxins. So again, I just feel like we miss this because no one wants to talk about it.
No.
And not many people know about it. I mean, I've been into these things for 15 years. I really I love physiology and every year I get into something else that's okay, I'm really liking this. And that's how I kind of built Project Wellbeing. Okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and bring all these professionals in under one roof so we can actually help people. But I just think that we got to have this information be more outspoken and get it out to the public more, because there's many things that you can do to reboot your body, or to do it in the most healthy way as well.
Yeah.
Especially not just from going from competing to not competing, but you also are aging as well.
Yeah.
And you put all that strain on your body. This is the biggest thing for bodybuilding competition, is because of not just the amount of exercise, but you can't eat certain things because of calories. So you're now missing out these micronutrients, right? So you're taking all of the minerals out of your bones. Bones are becoming weaker. You're not being able to absorb and methylate items properly. So what does that mean? Is you take vitamins and minerals, but you can't pull them into the cell. Yeah. It's two separate problems. So we have special tests like a Nutri-Eval that we actually test 127 nutritional markers for your Krebs cycle, which is your energy cycle. It also shows how your body metabolizes fat, carbohydrates, and proteins, and if you're missing any micronutrients, to bring you down into another substrate, which is a type of acid that is breaking down those foods. If you know that, maybe you have higher carbs and fats. But if your coach doesn't know that, they've now got you reversed, and they're just, we don't know. So you're on a plan that may not be fully conducive for you. You're on a diet that you may be eating inflammatory foods for a long time. So then you get dysbiosis in the stomach, because 365 days I've eaten the same thing, boom. So imagine knowing that information, paying a couple $1,000s to know that information. It probably would make you feel 30 or 40% better and reduce symptoms.
Most definitely.
Especially now if you do that for 5-10 years at a time, it's like compilation effect there.
Yeah.
And all those things affect your sleep. So
most definitely.
Yeah,
I had food sensitivity tests done because of that reason. I mean, I was shredded, peeled lean, and then bloated beyond belief. And come to find out, I developed a sensitivity to eggs and chicken because that's what I'd been eating for 10 years.
Yeah.
Incessantly. So we had to completely, one prep I was doing mainly seafood because I had developed a food sensitivity. And I think another just side note topic is a lot of the bodybuilding world relies heavily on non-caloric foods and sugar-free foods, and it absolutely kills and destroys their gut microbiome. And I was guilty of that. And I was ordering sugar-free syrup by the case, Sean, by the case. I was pouring that shit on everything, on my eggs, on my chicken, like anything.
But now we got, not a great habit, but now we got energy drink, sugar-free syrup, sugar-free barbecue sauce.
All of it.
Your pre-workout, your protein powder, your amino acids, anything else. Oh, your Mio or Crystal Light you want to put in water so you can drink water. So if you would combine all those things and actually see how much artificial sweetener is there,
so bad.
that it's not having a Diet Coke every day that's bad.
No.
It's having, 20 times what artificial sweeteners in there across your entire day.
Pumping it all day into your system.
And then the artificial dye. So they're getting better.
Yeah.
Like, this is clear. That's why I choose to drink this. Yes, I like energy drinks, but try to make the best decision. But yeah, it's that. I mean, that's such an exponential effect on the body.
Big
and
time.
I'm glad that you brought that up because
my digestion has never been the same since I started bodybuilding. It completely has destroyed. It's because your bodybuilding diets, once you get into the deep dog days of prep, are very devoid of a lot of minerals and nutrients because you're eating like a very limited amount of items. And so it's really not that healthy. And fiber is like null, void of most of your diet. So unless you are being proactive and adding in some dietary fiber by way of supplementation, I've had athletes come to me from other coaches and they like, yeah, it's normal for me not to use the restroom for like 4 days. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That we need to get that moving. Like estrogen, like a lot of hormones also, digestion is a part of that. And so we need to get things moving. So yeah, it's very important that you know what's happening with your
so
gut.
if you get all your tests done, so what type of probiotic do I need?
Yeah.
So get a stool test, and I've got this overgrowth of bacteria, so just prescribe a probiotic just for that. You can't go in the store and just randomly buy everything.
No,
because
because there's so many choices, and you really have to know what's working.
And here's the thing. I think it's getting a little bit better, but in bodybuilding, when you hear supplementation, it's not micronutrients. It's like, here's my creatine, my protein, my CLA, my citrulline malate. But, micronutrients are different. So if you supported your body, especially, again, getting tested in different phases. I want to test you when you're at your absolute worst because that tells me what type of support you need then. Right? Most of the time, you don't want to know, so you end up getting tested. Oh, I'll get tested when I start my prep again, okay? But I want to test you when you're in your absolute worst to see what you're truly deficient in, and that's where people end up missing us. That's why we need to take these snapshots annually throughout the year. That's the most important part.
Well, and not only that, once you're able to get that information immediately post-show, because that is when your body is like on fire, like at its probably worst, you can come out of that so much faster when you're armed with that information. So you're not spinning your wheels and throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying a bunch of different things and thinking, well, I don't need to worry about this right now because I'm in the off season, when in fact the off season is actually incredibly important, because if you are going to make any changes before your next show, that is when it needs to be done. And if you are not able to assimilate your nutrients properly, you could be eating the best and doing all the great things in the off season, but if your GI is a mess and you're not actually absorbing any of that, you're really spinning your wheels.
Yeah. And when should someone escalate to clinical support? Like, what symptoms should not be ignored? When should someone escalate to actually getting some clinical help?
I mean, I think the typical things are, if you are struggling big time with your appetite post-show, that's huge. That might be more like some psychological support, because there is a piece of that you have to eat until your body can kind of reestablish its hunger hormones. And sometimes that takes a really long time. So I think working with a coach that's willing to be patient with you is super important. Like, a lot of coaches just want to say, oh, let's increase your calories 150 calories this week. And then if you go over it, because most people do in the off season, let's just be real, it's like, oh, just try harder next week. We'll stick to the plan next week. And that's really not very helpful. So I think having a solid strategy on plan post-show for your nutrition is super important. If you are not getting your period back, and it has been several months, you most definitely want to see where your hormones are and what's happening there with your progesterone, your estrogen, your testosterone, especially if you have implemented any kind of physique enhancing drugs, because that's going to alter your natural hormones. I think if you are noticing that your energy has really, really tanked, like when you're in the gym, maybe you're having hard time sleeping, but then when you're awake, you're sleepy during the day. Like, we need to see what's going on there with just like a basic metabolic panel, and probably some deeper panels to see what's going on there with, just an overall snapshot of everything, just to get everything back on track.
No, I think that's super important. how does like stress, low calories, high stimulants affect motility and your microbiome? But most importantly is, do you think this is why, it's common for competitors and bodybuilders to start getting into these recreational drugs because I think one of it's psychological and two of it is just they feel dead,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, stimulants are I'll speak for myself, running two businesses, running a podcast, having children, trying to have a relationship, and also be in contest prep and also coaching like it's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I lost that. The whole
Yeah,
thing fits
there's
on
a
two
lot
hands.
there. Yeah, it is a recipe for adrenal fatigue, burnout, all the things. And usually my method would be to try to do stimulant detoxes very frequently, because going into contest prep, I knew I was going to have to rely on that as a crutch. So whether it was caffeine pills, a lot of the fat burners that you take during prep that are not legal and over the counter are oftentimes going to increase your energy, your heart rate, and obviously help with burning fat. And so when you are like your system is heightened and jacked and you're running on adrenaline a lot and you have the stressors of your everyday life, it would be foolish to think you are not going to come down and crash and burn really hard after that.
Yeah.
I would also implement things that would help with stress in terms of supplementations like ashwagandha, L-theanine, like some of those really just sort of insurance to have on board. But there's of course only so much that will do. And I think good old fashioned like rest and time off is underrated because there are so many other tools we can do. But again, bringing your training back down, not living in that heightened state of so much output and not enough input in terms of calories is super key. So really creating a post-show recovery period that involves, decreasing training volume, decreasing cardio output, increasing calories, getting more rest, and just restorative type activities are super, super underrated because it's really hard. Like when you flip the switch to go in prep, it's like full steam ahead.
Yeah.
And then coming down from that feels like you're being lazy. It feels I'm being lazy. I'm not doing enough, and it starts to become a psychological warfare at that point.
Yeah. And this makes me laugh because it is so crazy. But like, if someone has symptoms of IBS, right? So like,
Yeah.
but think about this. I know this happens. So you're taking these supplements, and I'm gonna shit my pants in 30 minutes. But you almost plan your workout around
have
this,
to.
and you do it every single time. I mean, now I look back as man, how fucking crazy was
So
that?
bad.
But and I know that it happens to everyone because our body's not meant to digest all these things in these jars that are who knows what's inside of them.
Yeah.
And I just start laughing because man, it sounded like archaic. Like, why would someone do that to themselves every day?
Yeah. I think a lot of the things that we do in bodybuilding, I cringe at. I cringe at. I'm like, oh, we're still doing that? Yeah. Silly things from like, the golden standard is fasted cardio, when the research is showing that not necessarily the benefits of that make much difference. For myself, I would rather have an athlete be sleeping instead of getting up at 3 a.m. to hit the gym and do fasted cardio if they can do it after work, or if they can, we can find another way for them to get it in. But yeah, these things are really harsh on the body, and it just seems kind of crazy that we're still doing it. Even things like coaches that are still like messing around with like water loading and sodium and doing a lot of crazy shit during peak week when they haven't done any of that prior to peak week. And then all of a sudden they want this to be the magic.
Yes.
When a lot of times, like if your athlete looks fantastic and they look great and they're sleeping and everything, the sun, the moon and the stars are aligning, and we just kind of need to coast into a show, you really shouldn't pull any fast tricks that last week that are going to potentially make them 1% better, because oftentimes it makes them 5% worse. And I found that from experience, unfortunately, the hard way.
Yeah. And I think that it's just like the quality and the knowledge of coaching that's out there. You know,
Yeah.
so I've never been a bodybuilding coach, but could I coach someone for bodybuilding? Absolutely. I've worked with probably 20 different
Yeah.
professional sports in the world. It's in fact, bodybuilding is a straight up physiological approach. So what goes in, what comes out, knowing what to do with it. But I feel like, you know, and obviously I'm highly educated, and, you know, before I really I used to pride myself on that, but if no one else has access to those things, then what good am I? You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
it's almost like I think that we just need to set an entirely new standard for when you go out and actually seek a professional.
I agree. I think there's just so much that's being missed. And because it is such a highly calculated, you know, sort of plan that you need to set out to adhere to, it really should look like Groundhog's Day most of the time, right? Like the coaches that it makes me cringe and it's kind of crazy to me is I will hear girls say, "Yeah, my coach wants me to go have a burger and fries." When you've had no gluten for 20 weeks, you've had no beef
Yep.
in your
This is
diet,
going back to my
you've had no, so like you have not had these copious amounts of sodium, and they want you the night before a show to go fill up as a bikini girl, crazy, and go, you know, have a greasy burger and fries, and then it's just like the potential for disaster the next day is way too great. Like, why would you do that?
yeah.
Let's just stick to what's been working. But it's, you know, there's just these weird old school things that maybe worked, like, I don't know, back in the day, but I don't know why that's a thing.
I just think we have so many tests that can create clarity now. You
Yeah.
know, like I said, we have those advanced biomarker tests. We have, for instance, like a Dutch test where we can test your cycle for 31 days. I think we tested about 27 times. So you actually have to pee on these
Yeah.
pieces of paper.
Yeah, those are
We
very
freeze
thorough.
them, then we send them in, because then you're actually seeing your progesterone and luteinizing hormone phase. Which why is that important? Well, you know, I was probably one of the only coaches and trainers that understood what time of the month was no to doing compound movements that could create injuries in the body, right? And that's because I was working with a lot of athletes. So yeah, there's certain times where the risk factor is very high in
Yeah.
that. The food immunology panels where you're actually testing your blood for the reaction, not just on the skin. The stool testing when you have truly things on, and then most importantly, any type of a DNA test, specifically like a detoxogenomic one, which is like looking at the liver and kidney, how your body is excreting nutrients, not, you know, these 23andMe's and all these other
Yeah.
companies that show up, but most importantly, finding people that know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So there's two things. There's from a provider and a medical standpoint, but then there's really great physiologists that know what to do with that information on a physiological standpoint, and those are not the same people.
No.
So we have two of those people on our team because they're two different viewpoints, but they need to work together. And then our clinician guides the evaluation and the standard, but they get input from the physiologist because they don't learn that in medical school. Just like in medical school for physiologists, we're not prescribing things to people, but you need both of them on team. I really now understand how to build a full team for the person. And at different times, you may need different professions, but there's just way too much testing and information that's available out there. And honestly, it's really finding a place or a company that you can look back and see what they do.
Yeah. I mean, and even just something like the DEXA scan is also fantastic for clients who are wanting to compete. And I think for me, finding out a client's exact body fat, their lean muscle tissue, and also bone density, which for those of us over 40 is super important, is leaps and bounds more informative than just getting your athlete to get on a scale or send measurements. Because especially for things like when coaches are having their athletes track their macros and they're not eating consistent like eating the consistent diet on a meal plan, which I know sucks, trust me. But when you are tracking macros and you are constantly varying the types of foods you're eating, and that means your sodium's all over the place and your fiber's all over the place. When you are fluctuating like that, it's very easy to freak out when you get on the scale and think, oh my God, I gained 2 pounds or 3 pounds, when it could be because you had too much fiber, too much sodium. So things like having a DEXA scan that arms you with the knowledge from the start is very, very helpful, especially from a coach's perspective, to know, what are we doing here? Are we building? Should we take more time to build versus like putting this person into a cut? I mean, aside from just all the blood tests and everything too that are incredibly important, I just think a lot of people don't realize how difficult bodybuilding is on the body. And so they think it's actually like making them healthier, when in fact, oftentimes it can do the inverse. So I think the work that you guys are doing at Project Wellbeing is phenomenal for arming people with just having set information before they go into something like a bodybuilding show.
I appreciate that. Like anyone, any coach or trainer, if you guys don't know this, we always, we invite you in. You can bring your client. We'll test them. They can meet with the doctor, get their lab work done. That could be given back to your client and the patient. They can share that with their coach, and we never take anything that comes in. So if you come in for evaluations, that's what you come in for. We're never trying to take someone's client or anything. But like if we can integrate on your team and actually provide some useful information, that's my favorite thing, because that actually gets the word back out into the industry. Is like, okay, there is a place I can go where I can get a lot of these things. I can check my heart health with the VO2 max as well, and then now you have a baseline. The great thing about a baseline is it's just a baseline. So you don't need to let it define you, but you should always try to make your baseline better.
Right.
But then, like if something's going on in your body, you can, and it could be from an injury baseline, from your blood, from a DEXA scan, from a VO2 max test. And then you have a baseline that, okay, something is going on where you don't have to wait for something, really bad to end up happening.
And I also think it's fantastic post-show, like we were talking about earlier, because like I was mentioning, we were talking about the identity piece of things. When you finish a show, you're almost like, well, I don't know what to do. This gives you some blood work PRs to work on.
And that's not easy.
It is not easy.
That takes real work.
I know from experience, getting blood work done post-show with my integrative docs and them saying like, okay, your liver's on fire, your thyroid's a mess, like your cholesterol's even taken a hit, your hemoglobin A1C, because after a show, I would gain 30 pounds and eat all the sugar in sight. And so then it became a new project of working on blood work PRs, if you will, just to improve that health.
So obviously most common injuries in competitors, hips, low back, knees, shoulders. Now, obviously this is kind of what really propelled my career, was when I was a therapist and I was working on a lot of bodybuilders. And here's the thing, like, if you don't take care of your body, look at them now. It's actually really sad. It kills me. Like, man,
Ronnie Coleman.
You got to take, I still watch the videos. I love it, but I'm like, man, it's fun to watch, but who was his team around him that let that partake in? He didn't have the right people around him.
I think because it's such an archaic, old school, it's just, you just go until you can't go anymore. But yeah, I think a big misnomer that I see in programming is there's nothing programmed around functionality, mobility. None of that really gets a huge piece of the spotlight. And if it does, a lot of times clients skip it because it's like the not fun stuff.
Yes.
And it's boring, and it's not really, we're not getting a pump from doing, like knee circles and working on 90-90 hip mobility stretches. But the reality of it is if your mobility is trash, your muscle gains will likely also be trash. And so oftentimes when I'm working with clients and they come to me and I look at progress photos before I start creating a plan for them, their shoulders are forward, their, one shoulder's up. I can see there's a hip, issue. And so instantly I'm like, this is going to be boring. I know you came for like the sexy bodybuilding plan, but like we got to work on this other shit first, or you're never going to have delts and you're always going to have soggy glutes.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, let's warm up for a lateral raise with a lateral raise. Like, let me warm up for a 50-pound lateral raise with a 15-pound lateral raise. I'm like, we got to do better than that.
Correct.
We got to do better. And so on your team, obviously you have people taking care of your blood work. you need to have a great physical therapist.
sure.
You need to have a great massage therapist. They are not the same.
Absolutely.
I respect both professions. Obviously, I'm a massage therapist by trait. And you need to have both professions in play at
I
the
agree.
same time.
I agree.
And I feel like if you have both of those people that actually work together, you're gonna have a pretty healthy body at the end. It's just like I tell pro athletes, like, well, you want to run around with your kids, you want to have a normal life, like there'll eventually be a time where you want to stop doing that, and you should be able to do all the things that you should have if you were taking care of your body.
Most
Because I
definitely.
hate seeing, especially now that I'm a little bit older, all those people that I were looking up to, like they can barely walk.
Yeah.
And that is
awful.
absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Now ask them, are they happy with it? Yeah, they probably achieved a lot, but no one wants to sacrifice that to be like that for the rest of their life.
No, it's not
no
worth
one.
that quality of life. Not at all. I mean, bodybuilding, should be adding to your life, even if you're doing it just for aesthetic goals. I think there has to be balance with everything, right? Like when you're getting ready for a prep, there isn't oftentimes a lot of time, real estate, or mental bandwidth to add in a lot of other modalities that keep your body healthy and moving and range of motion and everything. But to your point, yes, I mean, I was heavily employing my massage therapist and my physical therapist during my prep times because I had a shoulder issue, I had a hamstring tear, there was always something a little bit off, and it affects your ability to lift properly and gain muscle in the right areas the way that you need to if everything isn't working like one well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and we have a unique situation where we have physical therapists in a full gym.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're a professional bodybuilder and, let's say every time I squat my knee hurts, well, guess what? You can come to Project Wellbeing, do a physical therapy performance session. We're going to watch you squat.
It really is Disneyland for bodybuilders.
You can do. Okay, I would. Obviously, I'm an equipment connoisseur.
I
mean,
love
can-
your equipment
for
there.
for
It's amazing.
bodybuilding. See, Kaiser,
Kaiser's great.
they don't get the love for bodybuilding, but I
No.
promise you that is probably one of the most effective pieces of equipment for
Very
bodybuilding
underrated,
itself.
I would say.
Extremely underrated. Now, imagine you can come in as a professional body fitness competitor, work out with your physical therapist, let them watch you work out and correct you in live time. How valuable is that?
Yeah.
That's huge. And we have that because we have a full gym right on the physical therapy floor, enabling to do that. And I feel like that is a huge advantage. And
Most
even
definitely.
just going in and getting worked on, sometimes the physical therapist, if they don't, some of them don't even work out, right? So they'll be like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'm going to try to move your hip around like that. But imagine being able to go under the load that you would in the gym, heavy squat, heavy load. Let's actually see what's going on right then and there, and then make an adjustment. Because many times as a bodybuilder, you get stubborn. You think that you can only have a big leg because you squat or deadlift. Okay, I did that. I've got 11 bulging discs in my back. I wish I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I stopped. I learned my lesson.
Mm-hmm.
But I barely even have people squat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as you understand the way that the muscle moves and the biomechanics, you can achieve the same thing multiple ways, sometimes better than what we think, without putting the body under maximal load and really crushing your spine. But again, being able to come in and getting that real professional guidance from an actual professional where they can put you into what you do and see it, I feel like I wish that I had that before. I wish that I had that service to offer before.
Yeah, definitely very insightful. You just don't know what you don't know until you actually have a different way shown to you. And I think I'd agree wholeheartedly with that, just from being a stubborn bodybuilder who just felt like more hardcore. If it hurts, it's working. Like it just needs to be so painful.
I got, stage 4 chondromalacia in the knee.
Oh, man.
Because I cannot, I used to do 200 leg extensions at a time. I'm like, that's so dumb,
brutal.
but again, you don't know what you know. Then obviously I was in school. I'm like, okay, I don't even touch a leg extension now.
Yeah.
I don't, 90% of my work is in posterior chain. My body feels way better.
Yeah.
I want to touch back on that DEXA. One thing we forgot to touch on was actually the visceral fat. So the visceral fat around your organ cavity. Mm-hmm. Now, people think that, I'm really skinny, so I couldn't have visceral fat. No, you definitely can. You can have more than someone that's overweight. Yeah. So that visceral fat, that's the secret killer right there. Mm-hmm. And the only way you really ever know that is from a DEXA scan.
Correct.
So putting the DEXA scan in the gym, not the easiest thing to do. I can tell.
I
I
know
can
it
tell you
take.
that.
I know your setup
Right?
takes up a whole lot of space there.
Oh yeah, I
But
got to get the radiology board involved.
yeah,
I mean, it's a big thing.
I bet.
And that reminded me of something. So in this day and age of bodybuilding, we have one thing that has changed, and that is the usage of GLP-1s
Oh,
in bodybuilding. Now,
yeah.
I know this is what will happen, but we don't know it yet. Yes, you can get leaner faster,
Hmm.
but you will strip the bone mineral density out of your bones at such a more rapid rate that we haven't experienced that yet. But mark my words, in 1 to 2 years, we're going to come back on here and I'm going to be saying this. And it's like, so get your bone mineral density checked, because now you're going to be eating less and you're going to have less nutrients,
Yep.
which means it's going to be a more rapid rate for this to happen in men and women.
Hmm.
So you rob the bones out of their nutrients. You got your tendons attaching on to the bone. You start fraying those down. The amount of injuries are going to go up, but also truly, I do feel like those create autoimmune dysfunctions when you start taking all the nutrients out of your bones.
I mean,
for
it
sure.
all makes sense. Yeah,
You know, that so we haven't really looked into that, but I know for sure,
it's
because
coming.
I can start seeing it. I see the advertisement of that,
Yeah.
and I don't know what that's going to do yet, but I know what it is doing to the body. So I'm sure we'll see this in the next 1 or 2 years.
For sure. And I think there is such an allure to using it. And I understand, as somebody who's competed and actually who has used a GLP-1 as I was prepping for my last show that I ended up deciding I was done bodybuilding. I was in the thick of a prep. I was probably about 14 or 16 weeks out. I had already been prepping for a while, and I was able to drop a significant amount of body weight due to a GLP-1. And I thought, how am I going to go for another 16 weeks? Because I'm already at a really high dose. Like, I had dropped at that point 15 pounds. I still had probably another 15 to 20 pounds to lose. And there just is going to become a point of diminishing returns. It was affecting my gut motility. It was affecting my GI. And I understand the allure of it because it takes away the food noise, which is one of the biggest problems that you'll find when you go to compete. There's no getting around it. You're going to be really, really low calories trying to get freakishly lean. And so when you have something like a GLP-1, it sounds great and fine, but I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze based on exactly of what you're saying. And the other piece of it that psychologically is damaging is once you come out of a show and you start to come off that GLP-1, you're going to gain all that weight back.
Yes.
It's going to come back fast, really, really fast.
And that is why it truly needs to be medically supervised. So
Yeah.
obviously we do medical weight loss, but we don't do that unless you need it. Get a DEXA scan every 3 months, get a VO2 max every 3 months, check your biomechanics, and then do a blood work. Now, you don't need to do any of those to get prescribed the GLP-1.
No, and
you can
people
go
don't.
online and do that, and you'll get whatever dosage that you want. And that's why we have a problem with all the black market GLP-1s, right? Because it is
Correct.
unsafe when you're doing it like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Not monitored
But
at all.
we control the dosage for the patient. We're never going to put someone on the highest dosage unless you are 300 pounds overweight and you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't like that. So, okay, we're not the right clinic for you. We're going to do everything in our possible way for us to keep you healthy. Why? Because that person is going to go off and buy something anyway.
Yeah.
But we're going to do whatever we need to do to make that person healthy and track them.
Which is great.
They're not going to influence our clinician and how much dosage they should take.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not going to prescribe them the big bottle because we know what people do.
Yeah.
And when you talk about gut motility and how it affects your digestion, I mean, see, just because all of the mainstream talks about GLP-1, it doesn't talk about the side effect. I mean, we're talking about serious stomach pain, serious stomach discomfort.
Oh, I know.
Bad. Could be for 1 to 2 months. I mean, it's not good.
Nausea.
Especially semaglutide. It really affects your gut motility long term. But again, just give it a year. This is the things that we're going to start to see.
Scary.
It is scary.
Very.
But again, we don't know what these things do long term to your health because we're not doing them the correct way.
Right. Much like most things in bodybuilding.
Yep.
Abused widely.
Yeah, but yeah. If money was no object, what would your 30-day dream protocol look like?
Ooh. I mean, I would have to say making sure that I got all of the preventative type of, labs and everything that you're mentioning before, like going into a prep, you mean, or like a contest prep,
Yeah,
or
but let's
just,
face it. Like if you're, obviously, unless you own a business, when you're working and doing bodybuilding, like you're
yeah.
not doing anything extra. So you're probably maximizing your budget and
Hmm.
cutting out everything for your health,
Yeah.
right? Like you're gonna maximize the look, but you're not gonna. You have no money to focus on the health. So like, what would that full protocol be if money was no object for your health?
I mean, I think it goes without saying arming yourself with all of the pre-work so that what you're doing actually makes sense and you're not just doing shit just to say like, oh, I'm adding in this supplement or this greens powder or this peptide. So getting things like your DEXA scan, the VO2 max, getting all the pre-work done for your blood work, just having everything dialed in so you know what to tackle first. Having a great massage therapist, having a physical therapist, having state of the art equipment would also be a big, huge perk, and making sure that everything that I was doing was targeted for health and longevity. And like I always tell my clients, and I say oftentimes on my podcast, is the things that you do to make yourself healthy or work on for your health inevitably are going to make you hot. It just is, it's just going to be a byproduct, right? If you are trying to live to be an optimized human, the byproduct is you're going to feel better, you're going to look better, you're going to be more confident, and that's going to spill over into all areas of your life. I don't know if you follow Brian Johnson, but
Yeah,
he's like the don't die guy.
yeah.
But the heated sauna, all of these, just I could spend all day doing health and wellness shit, quite frankly, Sean, unfortunately, if I wanted to, from the moment I woke up, right? Go get sun in my eyes for 15 minutes and then put my feet on the ground and do some grounding and then come in and journal and read and breathe and make sure I'm not burning candles with toxins. Like the list could go on,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny you say that. Now, I love all those things.
Yeah.
Do I do those? Sometimes, but
Everything in moderation.
as now that's another thing. So in the influence of what you should be doing in a day, journaling, meditation,
Yeah.
getting the sun, it's still the most important thing is the way that you think between here and here,
Absolutely.
and the way that you are actually able to facilitate that truthfulness to yourself.
Stress.
Yeah.
Stress reduction is
All
key.
those things
Don't matter if you're
don't
stressed
matter
out.
if you
Basket
actually
case.
don't be truthful with yourself.
Yeah, most definitely.
You're in an identity crisis, and
Mhm.
you literally have a psychosis of what you think you are
Yeah,
for who you actually are,
right.
and that is 95% of people's problem.
Yeah.
And those are really hard things to learn. For me,
Hmm.
it took a full divorce in order to
Same.
to learn about that, right?
Yeah.
Because I was so stubborn that nothing physical could stop it, but it had to be a mental dagger
Hmm.
that actually, if it's like, hold on, you got to stop and actually, you got to be real with yourself,
For sure.
right?
You got to do the
Um,
mental work.
yeah, like
That's
it's
hands down.
especially if you don't deal with childhood trauma and all those
Ooh, that's a
compilation
whole
things.
nother podcast. I love that
Yeah,
topic.
all those compiling things, but yeah, I did that. I was honest with
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
and
Most definitely.
and it was a long 2-year process of really learning myself, and
It's
I
almost an unlearning.
yes,
Huh.
and I don't take it for granted at all. And now lots of time has gone by. I'm like, okay, I really appreciated that because of how much it made me grow. Like everyone's
Yeah.
like, you're not the same. I was like, definitely not.
Thank God.
I'm not even
I don't
close
want
to
to be the
same.
same. Yeah.
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 So they mistake your growth with ego because
Hmm.
it makes them uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I'll say it again. They mistake your growth with ego because it makes them uncomfortable, and that's when you know that you got to change your friend circle. Not
Yes.
here, but you got to go up here.
For sure.
Like a year ago, I'm like the people that I was around, they weren't contributing to my growth, and people get mad like, oh, not from a monetary standpoint, from my own mental standpoint.
Yes.
It's no longer suitable for the level of intellect that I wanted to be around. So I just
Yeah.
cut everyone out.
Who are you? You're the sum of the 5 closest people you spend their time with.
Yes.
And I moved completely to a different state because of that reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, if you do not change your environment, nothing changes. I
No.
don't care. It's 100% true.
I'm sure you've heard of the Atomic Habits, James
Yeah,
Clear.
great book.
And I saw recently on maybe it was a reel where he was saying somebody had asked him, he was on an interview, if only one thing really truly mattered out of all of your lessons and teachings and everything you've studied, he said it was who you surround yourself with was the most important key concept from all of his learnings. And I'd wholeheartedly agree with that. My friend circle is very, very small, intentionally so, not because of ego, because I protect my mental real estate. And I think, you have to be very honest with yourself, even when it comes down to the partner that you have, whether or not that person is contributing to that or is bringing it down. You can't be in a bucket, there's this theory of like a bucket of crabs and the bottom crabs are trying to pull the top crabs to the bottom. And so if you're just hanging out with crabs, you're just going to end up, recirculating within that headspace and not really get very far. So it's definitely important to have a strong circle of like-minded people that you can turn to that are also prioritizing their own, goals and aspirations.
Yeah.
So important.
And I think, a lot of times you can let anyone influence you. They don't need to be famous. They don't need to have a whole bunch of money. There's amazing people that are just in different, areas in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like where you spend your time with people and who you choose to help and who chooses to help you.
Yeah.
I really think is the most important decision that you can make, which I think ties into all the stuff that we were talking about, because unfortunately it's that you never get to that frame of mind. Like, when's the last time you were able to have an actual conversation like that with someone where you can talk about that stuff? Because it just normally doesn't happen because the person hasn't gotten there yet. Mm-hmm. They haven't reached that point. They hadn't had anything happen to them in order to change their frame of mind. Maybe they're lucky and they've always thought that way, but no, we're a human being. Yeah. And nature by human being means that we're selfish human beings. And we only think for ourselves and we only want things for ourselves. Well, I'll tell you what, something bad enough will happen to you where you'll make yourself unselfish.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it usually comes by way of a big life-altering event. And, something like a divorce or, somebody leaves you or a death or, you lose a job or a business fails.
Here's the thing. I am 100% certain that no one leaves you, but you push them away.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And when you go and be honest with it, and it could be good or bad, like, it's just not suitable for me, so you've naturally pushed them away. But I think a lot of people can't be true to themselves, because unless you understand that you push them away, you can't heal properly.
Right.
Oh, it was them. No, it was you.
No, but I truly think it happens for you.
Yes.
It is a part of your journey and a part of your growth, and it happens for you. There's been relationships that I've been in where, these people have left me and I was like, oh, what's wrong with me? And looking back, it was the best thing that could have possibly happened. It was for me. It happened for me. So I look at a lot of circumstances in my life that a lot of people would perceive as negative or, oh, aren't you upset that this and this happened? And I just have to reframe that perspective, because there's no sense in living in stress and being upset over things constantly. It's almost just like, it is what it is. It's my motto.
Okay, I got 6 to end. I got 6 rapid fire questions for you.
So okay, let's go.
Biggest myth in bodybuilding prep?
That being skinnier is better, like weighing less is better. That's a myth.
One sign a woman needs a reset immediately.
You're eating everything in the pantry and you can't control your appetite.
Most underrated recovery tool?
Ooh, I would say the hot sauna.
Okay, well, great choice.
Yeah.
One habit that wrecks your digestion post-show?
Fucking eating loads of sugar-free bullshit, honestly.
Like syrup.
Oh, stay away from Walden Farms.
One test or assessment you wish every competitor did once?
A full freaking thorough blood panel.
One sentence to your younger competitor self?
It's not all that.
Thank you so much for doing this with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
This
was
awesome.
fun.
I hope that it gets people thought provoked and thinking. I love
For
your,
sure.
your raw honesty. So
Yeah, you
where,
just gotta
where
be.
can they find your podcast?
Oh, bossbitchradio.com. It's on Apple, Spotify, all of the regular offenders for podcast listening for sure.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and
Thank you so
I
much,
can't
Sean.
wait for you guys to listen to this.
All right.